Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is your favorite YouTuber Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video we shall have the discussion. We are going to solve the important question paper, that is the 2023 examination question paper, that is second semester BA Generic English NEP syllabus under BCU. So in the year 2023 examination question paper we are going to solve. Duration as usual 2 hours 30 minutes, maximum marks 60. So let's begin it. So let's have a glance at the syllabus. Workbook has a weightage for 40 marks, and you have these chapters in the workbook. You have reading skill, comprehension passage, vocabulary building, synonyms, antonyms, prefix, suffix, homonym, homophones, collocations, then articles, prepositions, tense, reported speech, dialogue writing, verbal, nonverbal communication, story writing, then public speaking, writing, welcome speech, vote of thanks. Then you have the literary section where you have 6 lessons: Shut Down the Shop, A Face in the Dark, Give All to Love, The Cold Within, Mrs. Datta Writes a Letter, The Fly. I have done the videos on all the topics. All the topics videos are done. You can just check the description box. You'll get all the links. Let's begin. So the section A, your question paper is in the 2 sections. Section A workbook, section B coursebook. Section A here refers to 40 marks, and here you have the first question. You have to read this passage and you need to answer 5 questions. So you can pause the video and you can read the passage and you can answer those 5 questions. So you have to read the passage carefully and answer those 5 questions based on the passage. Then second part is here, do as directed. So the first question here you have here, choose the correct synonym for the words given below. He has put in great effort to win this table. So out of the 2 synonyms, effort, or you need to find the synonym here, effort. So he has put in great effort to win this title. So answer is here effort. Arun was furious and his face was red. So we cannot say worried. When the face is red, you can't say you're worried, you will be furious. So correct synonym is here, furious. Next question, antonym. You need to find the antonym. Vital, the antonym of vital is here, unimportant. Smooth, antonym of smooth is here, rough. What's the meaning of synonym? Same meaning. Antonym means to say the different meaning, the opposite meaning. So a synonym for 2 marks, antonym for 2 marks. Then we have next question. 1 minute. Yeah. Next question we have prefix or suffix. You need to add here prefix or suffix. So for correct, prefix is here incorrect. In is the prefix, so incorrect. For comfortable, uncomfortable. Un is the prefix. So that is for 2 marks. Then homonym. You have to prepare homonym. Homonym by, for example, you need to make the 2 sentences by using the homonym. By using the homonym can, see and can. That means same pronunciation, same spelling, but meaning should have 2 different contexts. He can, you have to write here 2 sentences like this. He can lift this. So in this sentence, can here refers to helping verb. He locked himself in the can. That here refers to the noun, the box, can. So like this same word, but into 2 different contexts, 2 different meaningful sentences, 2 marks. Then you have here homophone for the word allowed. Homophone, same sound, same pronunciation, different meaning and different spelling. So allowed, A-L-L-O-W-E-D, allowed. So we have homophone is here, allowed, A-L-O-U-D. Both pronunciation have the same, but different spelling and different meaning. That's the meaning of homophone for 1 mark. Next, collocation, the words which they go together as a pair. Have a break or take a break. We never say have a break. We always say let's take a break. So take a break is the answer for 1 mark. Next question in this series, you have here, you need to find the appropriate preposition here. Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights, is celebrated on different dates. So out of 3 options, on different dates each year, depending upon the Hindu lunar calendar. It symbolizes the victory of light against darkness and is marked by the lighting of lamps and fireworks. So that's about preposition. Next, fill in the blanks by using the correct forms of the tenses. of the verbs given in the bracket. Three questions we have here. Railways railways connected people used. Traveling has. How? Railways connected almost all the big cities and towns. In the olden days, railways connected. I'm sorry, I should write here railways have connected. The railways have connected almost all the big cities and towns. In the olden days, people used to travel on the horseback or the bullock carts. Traveling has become easier now. So please do make correction here. Railways have connected almost all the big cities and towns. So this is the answer here. There's a minor correction. We will say here have connected, not connected, have connected. Present perfect tense, 3 marks. Then next question we have here, reported speech. Ramya said, I had lost my handbag. Ramya said that she had lost her handbag. Because of this past tense, have will change into had. Ramya, the pronoun she. Second question we have here, do you love reading books? It's a question. So he asked me, and this is the primary auxiliary, so we use here if or whether. He asked me if I loved reading books. We can't say if he loved reading books because he's asking me. So for me, I have to use here pronoun I. If I loved reading books. Then my father said, don't go out, it might rain. It's an imperative sentence. My father instructed me not to go out because it might rain. So these are the three questions for the reported speech. I have done special videos on active passive voice reported speech. You can see in the description box, the links. Then you need to write a dialogue between a teacher and a student, how to prepare for examination. Just pause the video. You can go through this dialogue. My dialogue, I mean to say this dialogue writing, and you should write in a very brief and with you need to think about the punctuation marks also. There should be proper usage of punctuation mark to make your dialogues more effective. 3 marks question for dialogue writing. Then now you have questions from the communication skills, verbal communication, non-verbal communication. We have 3 questions, compulsory questions. Number 1, define chronemics. Chronemics is a field of study which examines the utilization of time, which speaks about the time in the non-verbal communication. Then we have another question. Name any 2 types of non-verbal communication: posture, gesture, eye contact, facial expression. Non-verbal communication means body language. Mention any 2 disadvantages of oral communication: poor retention, no record, time consuming. Now you may have one more question. What is the meaning of kinesics? K-I-N-E-C-S, kinesics. Kinesics means to say the study of body language. This is means non-verbal communication, posture, gesture, eye contact. This is also called as the study of body language. Study of time is called as the chronemics. 3 marks question. I have done a very special video on this topic, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, advantage, meaning, types. So you can find the link of that particular video, communication, in the description box. You'll get out of marks if you watch that video. Then we have a question here, write a short story by expanding the outline. So outline is given and you need to create a short story. This is for 5 marks. So this is the answer and you need to give a title also. You can pause the video and you can go through the answer. Next question, welcome speech. You have to draft a welcome speech for the inauguration of Intercollegiate Fest in your college. So ladies and gentlemen, good morning and warm welcome to our Intercollegiate Fest. So you need to greet the audience, then one by one you need to welcome all the guests who are on the stage. You have to thank everybody as well. So pause the video and watch, and you can watch the script. You can go through the script, and you have an option here, vote of thanks. If you don't like welcome speech, you can attempt vote of thanks, where you need to thank everybody. You have to say who are you. You have to address the audience. Also thank all the audience at the end of the speech. So watch my special videos on vote of thanks and welcome speech. The link is in the description box. Then So that is about the 40 marks questions from the workbook. Now you have questions for 20 marks from the coursebook. You have 6 chapters in your coursebook. And here you have 3 sections and how the questions are being asked. 1 mark question, 5 marks questions, and 10 marks questions. 1 mark, 1 question, 5 marks, 1 question, and 10 marks, 1 question. So now you need to answer here 1 marks, 5 questions. Question number 1, why are the small shops compared to Kamadhenu? The small shopkeepers, they used to rule the street and they used to provide all kinds of goods, just like Kamdenu also fulfills all the wishes to everybody. Who were the two people who were the two people Mr. Oliver met one night? He met a boy who was crying silently with his head hung down, sitting on a rock. He also met a watchman who was swinging a lantern on his way. To whom did Mrs. Datta write regularly? She used to write to Mrs. Basu. Then, what did the black man see in his piece of wood in the poem The Cold Within? The black man saw a chance to take revenge by hurting the white woman by not sharing his wood to keep the fire burning. Question number 5. What was Mr. Woodfield's routine on Tuesdays? Mr. Woodfield used to go to his office to meet his boss because he got retired, he got a stroke, and after getting stroke, he was not allowed to move out of the house. He was allowed to go to out of the house only on Tuesday. So only on Tuesdays he used to go to meet his boss in his office, the business area of London. Then, what was the punishment given to Mrs. Datta by her mother-in-law? Mrs. Pramila Datta, that's a full name of Mrs. Datta. Mrs. Pramila Datta was punished by her mother-in-law for making pickles that were too salty. The punishment was that she had to eat the salty pickles which she had made. What should one give up for the sake of true love, according to Emerson? The poet urges the reader to surrender fully to the power of love. He advises them to devote themselves to it without reservation, even at the cost of personal loss or suffering. He says he asks the readers to give up friends, kindred days, estate, good fame, plans, credit, even the muse also. Next, we have here 5 marks questions. Out of 3 questions, you need to opt one. What does the fly symbolize in the story Fly? The Fly by Catherine Mansfield explores the themes of grief, control, and futility of life. The story centers on a boss who tries to forget his son's death by focusing on the fly's struggle for survival. The fly's demise symbolizes the boss' own suppressed emotions and the inevitability of death, highlighting the transient nature of life and the inescapable reality of boss. The fly in the story symbolizes the helplessness of man before the fate, before the destiny. Man may try hard to escape his death, but he is not given a chance to escape. Just like the fly, man tries hard and gets out of the grip of death for the time being, but fate again captures him. He has no power to defy fate and fall an easy prey to it. When we read the story, we find that the writer and all the characters in the story stand for the fly. To convey this idea, the writer tells a brief incident. A fly falls into an ink pot. The boss observes it, puts it on a blotting paper, enjoys its struggle. Just when the fly is able to escape death, drops a drop of the ink onto fly. He drops another ink on the fly, enjoys its struggle again. At last, the fly dies of those drops of ink. This incident of the fly is highly symbolic. The writer herself dies of tuberculosis, okay, that was incurable at that time. Many people were dying at that time. Later, men discovered a cure for the disease. He thought that he had escaped death and had defied fate. However, just like the boss, fate dropped another drop, the drop of AIDS. Now, many people are dying of it. Now it is a last drop, just like the fly. People cannot survive. We hope that man will discover a cure for it. However, who knows what the next drop is like. Second question we have here, describe Mr. Oliver's encounter with the boy. In the story A Face in the Dark, Mr. Oliver was walking down the narrow path through the pine forest when he stumbled upon a boy who was sitting alone in the dark on a rock. Mr. Oliver thought that the boy was a student of a school and somewhat he was angry with him as the boys were not supposed to go out after the dark. A little later, LATR, spelling error, LATR. A little later, Oliver sensed that something was wrong as the boy was crying with his head hung down and his face covered with his hands. It was rather a silent sobbing and his body shook. The boy gave no reply to the couple of questions which Mr. Oliver threw at the boy regarding what he was doing there or what was wrong with him. But when Mr. Oliver, the teacher, asked the boy to look up, he obeyed. The student obeyed, and in the low light of his torch, the Oliver observed that the boy had no eyes, no ears, no nose, and no mouth. It was a round, smooth head with a school cap on the top of it. That was the encounter of Mr. Oliver with the boy. Next question, explain Mrs. Datta's relationship with her daughter-in-law. The fact that Mrs. Datta doesn't have a very close relation with her daughter-in-law, Shamoli, that is very much obvious by with the interactions in very short story. The relation that they have is a very forced relation that functions they both have. I mean, they have very forced relation. They do not share anything of a relation personally with each other. It's through Sagar that they find any relation at all. On Shamoli's side, it is her affection to her husband that forces her into relating with Mrs. Datta. Her love for her husband forces her to respect her and tolerates her at times. It is the effect of many meaningless and oppressing customs that relates the mother-in-law to the daughter-in-law Shamoli many times. Shamoli liked Mrs. Datta's dishes in the beginning, but later she complained about cholesterol and how the food made Sagar fat. So these are the three questions for 5 marks. Now we have the question. I'm sorry. So Mrs. Datta was not happy when Shamali did not scold her children when they were rude. On the other hand, Shamali was not happy that Mrs. Datta does not know the American customs. Even when Shamali was unhappy over Mrs. Datta putting the clothes on the clothes line and trying to speak to the neighbor, and she did not complain her straight. Fourth question we have here, explain the predicament of the small shopkeeper, the difficulties which they are facing here. The poem Shut Down the Shop depicts the plight of the small shops which sold many kinds of goods earlier. With the onset of the globalization, they are getting down in numbers, and that is going to affect the shopkeeper's livelihood. The goods which are sold in the malls show the change in the taste of the customers and the strategies of the multinational companies to attract them. The poet sarcastically tells that the shopkeepers to shut down the shops on their own, since the mall culture will devour them sooner or sooner or later. The shopkeeper is trying to sell the wares of the shop by displaying them for sale. The wares are scattered. The speaker feels difficulty to sell the content by publicizing them through sale. The shop is always kept one. To protect it from sunlight, wooden planks are attached. The door is so old that if it's closed, very difficult to open the door. The others should not ridicule the shopkeeper for this embarrassing situation. The poet describes a clock. The octagon shaped clock that refuses to show time is already broken, handing cobweb eaten away by the rusting metallic board. This description is enough to showcase his business, his trading style. In search of new avenues, the shopkeeper's previous employees have already left. This is the ironical comment that when petty shops can sell imported toffees, chewing gums, mesmerizing scent, who would buy even if you lend them fly-covered lemon and the garlic peppermint? In this manner, the poem Shut Down the Shop highlights the struggle of small shopkeepers in the face of globalization and the rise of malls. The poet points out that the taste of the customers had changed. The multinational companies are using the different strategies to attract the customers, and this is how the mall culture is going to eventually consume all the petty shopkeepers, the retailers. So now we are going to have the discussion of the last phase of your question paper, that is 10 marks questions. What does Emerson say about love? Give All to Love by Ralph Waldo Emerson is a poem that urges the reader to surrender fully to the power of love, advising them to devote themselves to it without any reservation, even at the cost of personal loss or personal suffering. Emerson emphasizes the importance of being true to one's heart, even if it leads to heart attack, advocating for a fearless pursuit of love. He suggests the love should be fearless. He suggests that love is paramount, should be pursued with all of one's being. True love is worth any sacrifice. However, the poem also acknowledges the necessity of letting go if the object of one's love proves unworthy, emphasizing self respect and personal integrity in the face of unreciprocated affection. Hence, in the poem Give All to Love, Emerson emphasizes one's selfless sacrifice to love, the struggles he endures to transcend the grief of losing it, and the consolation he gets by accrediting love as nature and God. You can watch my summary on this poem. You'll get more ideas. Describe the character of the boss in the story The Fly. The unnamed protagonist, referred as the boss, is a successful London businessman, the former employee of Mr. Woodyfield, the former employer of Mr. Woodyfield. The boss initially appears to be a man of action who has aged well, retaining a youthful countenance. He commands respect from all those around him, including Woodyfield and the boss' loyal clerk, Massey. As the story unfolds, it's clear that the boss lost his son 6 years ago in the World War One. Woodyfield's reference to each of their sons' graves unnerves the boss, as he is deeply affected by the memory of his beloved boy, Reggie. After Woodyfield's departure from the office, the boss reflects on his crushing loss, but strangely finds himself unable to cry, even though the mere thought of his son would make him weep in the past. He quickly grows distracted. He gets distracted by a fly floating in the ink pot, and he decides to torture the fly repeatedly until it dies, all the while barking it, saying, "Look sharp and be resilient." At the story's conclusion, the boss suddenly transforms into a nervous and forgetful character who echoes Woodyfield's frailties. He forgets the past action also. So next 10 marks question we have here, explain the cultural differences between America and India as portrayed in Mrs. Datta's letter. Mrs. Datta's writes a letter story. The major theme in the story Mrs. Datta writes a letter is the many differences between the traditional Indians and modern Indians living in America and the conflict that this cultural divide can create. On one end of the spectrum is Mrs. Datta, who has been raised to be a traditional Indian wife. In India, she was taught that her needs should be placed below the family's needs and is used to be getting up early than other members in the family. She used to make the breakfast. However, in America, her early morning activities are a problem because they used to wake up shammily. But the habit taught her by her mother-in-law when she was a bride of 17, a good wife wakes before the rest of the household is one she finds impossible to break in America. So, this is the first of many cultural conflicts that Mrs. Datta faces in this story here. On the other end of the spectrum are Shamoli and Mrs. Datta's two grandchildren, who have been totally assimilated by American culture. They do not like Mrs. Datta's traditional Indian meals and would rather engage in American activities like reading the Wall Street Journal or playing video games than listen to Mrs. Datta's stories. Finally, her son Sagar is trapped between the two cultures. He enjoys many aspects of American culture, such as watching television, crime shows. He also enjoys his mother's food and stories, and he wants to please his Indian American wife, but feels compelled to be a dutiful son to his Indian mother. This creates the largest conflict of all because he is unable to be totally supportive of either woman, neither his mother nor towards his wife. At the end, Sagar bonds with his wife and family, and Mrs. Datta realizes that her place is not with her family in America. It is with her friend Mrs. Basu in Calcutta, India. So friends, this is how I have solved the question paper 2023 second semester BA Generic English under BCU. And on your screen, you can see the marks, how the marks have been divided. A blueprint of your question paper. You can pause the video, passage for 5 marks, vocabulary 10 marks, closed test 3 marks, tense 3 marks, report speech 3 marks, dialogue writing 3 marks, communication 3 marks, story writing 5 marks, public speaking 5 marks, and I mean to say welcome speech or vote of thanks 5 marks, then 1 mark 5 questions, 5 marks 1 question, 10 marks 1 question from the course book. And this is how the question paper is being designed. So thank you so much for watching this video. For all the videos links, you can just have a look into the description box. This is the third question paper I have solved. I have solved model question paper, 2022 examination question paper, and this 2023 question paper, examination question paper. Thank you so much. I wish you good luck for the examination. Like the video, comment in the comment in the comment box, or just comment about the video, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you. Stay connected with Mukesh English.